I'm 27. 10 years ago, my stepmother looked me in the eye at my father's funeral and said, "You're not getting a single dollar. Sign the waiver or I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are." I was 17, grieving, and stupid enough to sign. Within 48 hours, I'd lost my inheritance, my college fund, and my home. But the person who knocked on my door 3 days later? My father's lawyer. And what he told me started a decade-long plan that ended with me owning everything she tried to steal. Stop right here. Before I tell you how I took it all back, hit that like button if you've ever been cheated out of what's yours. Subscribe if you want to see the moment she realized I'd won. That moment is coming. Drop a comment with one word describing how you'd feel if family stole from you. I read every single one. Now let me take you back to March 2014. Portland, Oregon. My name is Cameron Reed. My mother died when I was 12. Breast cancer. It took her fast. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. For 5 years after that, it was just me and my dad, Nathan Reed. He owned a construction company called Reed and Sons. 3 trucks, 12 employees, small operation but successful. We built custom homes in the suburbs. Nothing fancy, just solid work, honest work. Dad and I were close. Not just father and child. We were partners, best friends. Every Sunday morning, rain or shine, we'd go to this diner on Burnside Street called Patty's. He'd order black coffee and cherry pie. I'd get buttermilk pancakes with way too much syrup. We'd sit in the same booth by the window. He'd talk about the business, about clients, about problems with suppliers, about expansion plans, and he'd always end the same way. "This is your future, Cam," he'd say, pointing at me with his fork. "Everything I'm doing, every house we build, every contract I sign, it's all for you. When you turn 25, this company becomes yours. That's the plan." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He said it every single week for 5 years. When I was 16, Dad started dating again. I encouraged it, actually. He'd been alone for so long, grieving, working 7-0-hour weeks. I wanted him to be happy. Her name was Veronica Glass. She was 38, 12 years younger than Dad, worked as a paralegal at a law firm downtown, beautiful in that polished, calculated way. Perfect makeup, perfect clothes, perfect smile. Dad met her at a client's office. She handled some permits for one of our projects. He asked her to dinner. She said yes. Within 2 months, they were inseparable. At first, I tried to like her. I really did. She'd come to our Sunday dinners at Patty's, laugh at Dad's jokes, ask me about school, compliment my mom's old recipes when I'd cook them. But small things felt wrong. Little things. Like how she'd accidentally pack away my mom's photos, put them in boxes in the garage. "The house feels so sad with all these reminders," she'd say. "Your dad needs to move forward, Cameron. Don't you want him to be happy?" Or how she'd schedule weekend trips during my important school events. My robotics competition, my honor society induction, my senior presentation. "Your dad works so hard," she'd tell me. "He deserves to relax. Don't be selfish, Cameron." Dad never noticed. Or maybe he didn't want to notice. For the first time since Mom died, he was smiling again, laughing. I didn't want to ruin that. They got married 6 months after they started dating. Quick courthouse ceremony, just them and 2 witnesses they pulled from the hallway. I wasn't asked to be part of it. When I asked why, Veronica smiled that perfect smile. "We wanted something intimate, Cameron. Just us. You understand, right? It's not personal." It felt personal. After the wedding, things shifted. Subtly at first. Veronica started showing up at the office more, bringing Dad lunch, sitting in on client meetings. She'd make suggestions. "Nathan, you should raise your rates. Nathan, you should let go of that crew member who's always late." Dad listened to her, started implementing her ideas. Then she convinced him to make her office manager. "I have business experience, honey. I can help you grow this company. Think of how much bigger we could be." Within 3 months, she'd reorganized everything. New accounting system, new filing system, new contracts. I was still in high school, so I only worked summers and weekends. But I noticed things. Invoices that didn't match, expenses that seemed high. When I mentioned it to Dad, he'd wave me off. "Veronica knows what she's doing, Cam. She's got a degree in business administration. Trust her." I tried. I really tried. The summer before my senior year, Dad started feeling sick, tired all the time, losing weight, He blamed stress, long hours, getting older. Veronica insisted he see a doctor. The diagnosis came in August 2013. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctor said 6 months, maybe 8 if treatment went well. Dad was 52 years old. He started chemo immediately, kept working when he could. But he got weaker, thinner. The construction company was basically running on autopilot. The crew knew what to do. They'd been with Dad for years. Veronica took over completely. Signed contracts, managed accounts, made decisions. "I'm doing this for you, Nathan," she'd say, holding his hand, "so you can focus on getting better." He'd smile at her, grateful, trusting. I was too focused on him to pay attention to what she was doing. I was 17. My dad was dying. I sat with him every day after school, did my homework in his hospital room, read to him when he was too tired to watch TV. One afternoon in January 2014, when it was just us, he grabbed my hand. "Cam, I need to tell you something important." "What, Dad?" "The business. I updated my will. Everything goes to you. The company, the house, all of it. I've made sure you're taken care of." "Dad, don't talk like that. You're going to beat this." He smiled, weak. "We both know I'm not. But that's okay. I've had a good life. And I'm leaving you set up. You're going to do great things, kid. I know it." "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, Cam. Remember that, no matter what happens. You're my kid, my priority, always have been." He died 3 weeks later, February 14th, 2014. Valentine's Day. I was holding his hand. Veronica was on her phone in the corner. When he took his last breath, I cried. Broke down completely. Veronica put her phone in her purse, walked over, patted my shoulder once. "We should call the nurse," she said. Her voice was flat, empty. No tears, no emotion. That's when I first felt it. A cold thread of fear in my chest. The funeral was 3 days later. Small service at a chapel on Division Street. Dad's construction crew came. Some old clients, a few neighbors, maybe 40 people total. Veronica wore a black Prada dress, designer sunglasses even though it was overcast. She cried during the service. Perfect tears, perfect timing. But I'd seen her face when Dad died. I knew those funeral tears were fake. After the service, people came back to the house. Our house, Dad's house, my house. I was in the kitchen making coffee when Veronica's lawyer showed up. I'd never seen him before. Tall guy, expensive suit, briefcase, cold blue eyes. Veronica introduced him. "Cameron, this is Mitchell Greer. He's handling your father's estate." "Estate?" I put down the coffee pot. "What do you mean?" "Dad's lawyer is Thomas Chen. He's handled everything for years." "Your father switched lawyers 6 months ago," Mitchell said. "When he got sick. Wanted someone who specialized in estate planning." That didn't sound like Dad. Thomas had been his friend for 20 years. "Can we talk in the living room?" Veronica asked. "This is important." We sat down, me on the couch, them in chairs facing me. Mitchell opened his briefcase. "Cameron, I need to go over your father's will with you." "Okay." My chest felt tight. Mitchell pulled out a document, slid it across the coffee table. "Your father left everything to Veronica. The house, the business, all bank accounts, investment accounts, life insurance policy, everything." The room tilted. The words didn't make sense. "What? No, that's wrong. Dad told me. 3 weeks ago. He said everything was going to me." Veronica dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "Cameron, sweetheart, your father changed his mind. After he got sick, he wanted to make sure I was taken care of. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't cut me out. The business was supposed to be mine. He said it every week for 5 years." Mitchell's voice was clipped. Professional. "People's wishes change, especially when facing mortality. Your father made these changes of his own free will. The will is dated September 15th, 2013. Properly witnessed, properly notarized, completely legal." "I don't believe this. Let me see it." He handed me the document. I read through it. Legal language I barely understood, but the key parts were clear. "I, Nathan Reed, being of sound mind, leave my entire estate to my beloved wife, Veronica Glass Reed." My name appeared once, at the bottom, as acknowledgement that I existed, that I was being intentionally excluded. The signature looked like Dad's, but something felt wrong. "This doesn't make sense," I said. "Why would he do this?" Veronica leaned forward. Her voice was soft, sympathetic. Cameron, your father loved you. But you're 17. You're about to go to college. You have your whole life ahead of you. I'm 38. I gave up my career to take care of him. He wanted to make sure I was secure. He promised me the business. Promises change, Mitchell said. He pulled out another document. This is a waiver. You're signing away any claim to the estate. In return, Mrs. Reed has generously agreed to give you $5,000 for college expenses. I stared at him. 5,000? The business is worth over $1 million. The house is paid off. His life insurance alone is 5,000? The business is worth over $1 million. The house is paid off. His life insurance alone is 300,000, which goes to his spouse, Veronica said. That's how marriage works, Cameron. I'm his daughter, his only child. And I'm his widow. Her voice went cold, hard. The law is very clear about this. I looked at Mitchell. This isn't right. He wouldn't have done this. She must have forced him or… Stop right there. Mitchell held up his hand. Be very careful about what you say next, Mr. Reed, accusing Mrs. Reed of fraud, undue influence, or coercion without evidence is slander, defamation. We could sue you. You're 17 years old. You have no money, no lawyer, no resources. Do you really want to start your adult life being sued for defamation? My throat closed. I couldn't speak. Veronica stood up, smoothed her dress. Cameron, I'm trying to be kind here. Sign the waiver. Take the $5,000. Go to college. Build your life. Or we can do this the hard way. Mitchell can file a lawsuit. We can drag this through probate court for years. We have resources, time, money. What do you have? Nothing. I had nothing. You have 24 hours to decide, Mitchell said. He closed his briefcase. Stood. If you don't sign, we'll assume you're choosing the hard way, and trust me, you don't want that. They walked out, left me sitting in that living room. My living room. My father's living room. Except it wasn't mine anymore. It was hers. I sat there for hours, trying to figure out what to do, who to call, how to fight this. But I was 17. I had $847 in my bank account. My college fund was part of Dad's estate, which Veronica now controlled. I had nothing. The next day, I signed the waiver, took the $5,000 check, packed my things. Veronica gave me 3 days to move out. I'm selling the house, she said. Fresh start, you understand. I moved into a motel on 82nd Avenue. $40 a night. Dingy room, broken AC, stained carpet. That was my life now. A motel room, $5,000, and no future. I'd lost my father, my home, my inheritance, everything he'd promised me, and I had no way to fight back. Or so I thought. I spent 3 weeks in that motel room, room 247. The number is burned into my memory. Every morning I'd wake up to the sound of the highway, trucks rumbling past at 5 a.m. The walls were thin. I could hear everything. Fights, crying babies, lives falling apart just like mine. I used the 5,000 carefully. 5,000 carefully. 40 a night for the room. $10 a day for food. Dollar menu. Gas station sandwiches. I was trying to make it last until I figured out what to do. College applications sat on the desk, half finished. I'd been accepted to Portland State, full ride scholarship, merit-based. But that scholarship didn't cover housing, didn't cover books, didn't cover living. I needed at least $800 a month just to survive. I had no job, no references besides my dead father, no permanent address to put on applications. I was 17 years old, and I was drowning. Some nights I'd drive past our old house, Dad's house. The lights would be on, Veronica's Mercedes in the driveway. She'd moved in a new boyfriend 2 weeks after the funeral, some guy named Derek. I'd see them through the windows, laughing, drinking wine, living in my father's house like he'd never existed. The construction company got sold 3 weeks after Dad died. Veronica listed it for $1.2 million, sold it in 5 days to a developer from Seattle. Dad's crew got laid off. 12 men who'd worked for him for years, gone. I ran into Carlos, Dad's foreman, at a gas station. He'd been with Dad for 15 years. Cameron, he grabbed my arm. His eyes were wet. I'm so sorry about your dad. And I'm sorry about what that woman did. Your dad wouldn't have wanted this. He talked about you taking over someday. All the time. I know, Carlos. She's a thief. Everyone knows it. But nobody knows what to do. Me neither, I said. He pressed something into my hand. $200 cash. For your dad. He'd want you taken care of. I tried to give it back. He wouldn't take it. Walked away before I could argue. I sat in my car and cried. The money ran out on week 7, March 31st, 2014. I had $340 left. That bought me 8 more nights. Then I'd be on the street. I applied to 30 jobs. Fast food, retail, warehouses. Got 2 interviews. No callbacks. Nobody wants to hire a kid with no address and no references. April 3rd. 3 days before I'd be homeless. I was sitting in my motel room at 9 p.m., eating ramen noodles from the microwave, watching some reality show on the old TV, trying not to think about what came next. Someone knocked on my door. I froze. Nobody knew I was here. I'd told no one. 3 more knocks. Firm, purposeful. I looked through the peephole. A man stood there. Late 50s, gray hair, wearing a suit, briefcase in his hand. I opened the door halfway. Kept the chain on. Cameron Reed? His voice was steady. Professional. Who's asking? My name is Thomas Chen. I was your father's attorney. His real attorney. Can I come in? We need to talk. I stared at him. Dad had mentioned Thomas 1,000 times. His lawyer. His friend. The guy who'd handled everything for 20 years. I unlatched the chain. Let him in. Thomas looked around the motel room. At the unmade bed. The stack of ramen cups. The half-packed duffel bag. His jaw tightened. Jesus, Cameron, how long have you been living here? 7 weeks. And the house? Your father's house? Veronica kicked me out. Said it was hers. Sold it last week, actually, to some investor. Thomas closed his eyes, took a deep breath. I was out of the country. Medical mission trip to Guatemala. I'm a lawyer, but I volunteer with Doctors Without Borders every year. 6 weeks. No internet, no phone. I just got back yesterday. He set his briefcase on the desk, opened it. When I got back, I saw your father's death certificate had been filed. I went to probate court to submit his will. The will he and I drafted together 7 months ago. He pulled out a document. Blue backing. Official seals. My father's signature at the bottom. This is your father's real will, Cameron. The one he signed in my office on August 3rd, 2013. It leaves everything to you. The business. The house. All accounts. Everything. I was the witness. My paralegal was the notary. It's legal. It's binding. And it's the last thing your father wanted. I took the document. Read it. My hands were shaking. Last will and testament of Nathan Michael Reed. I leave my entire estate to my son, Cameron James Reed. My eyes blurred. Then where did Veronica's will come from? Thomas's face went hard. She forged one. Used a lawyer named Mitchell Greer to make it look legitimate. Filed it with probate court 2 days after your father died. Before I could submit the real one. Can we prove she forged it? We can. I've already started the process. Requested handwriting analysis. Subpoenaed the notary she claimed witnessed it. The notary doesn't exist, Cameron. The name on her will? Fake. The seal? Fake. The whole thing is fraud. Hope. For the first time in 7 weeks, I felt hope. What do we do? Thomas sat on the edge of the bed. We fight. We file a lawsuit. Contest the probate. Prove forgery. Get everything back. But I need to be honest with you. This is going to take time. Months. Maybe years. Veronica has money now. Your father's money. She can hire expensive lawyers. Drag this out. I've got $340 and 3 days before I'm homeless. I know. That's why I'm here. He pulled out a checkbook. Started writing. I'm giving you $5,000. Personal loan. Interest-free. Pay me back when this is over. Use it to get an apartment. Get stable. Finish high school. Start college. I can't take your money. You're not taking it. You're borrowing it. Your father was my best friend, Cameron. We met in college. I was at his wedding to your mother. I held you when you were 2 days old. I'm not letting Nathan Reed's son live in a motel room. Not while I'm breathing. He tore out the check, handed it to me. $5. Made out to Cameron Reed. Wait. Stop this video right now. I need to ask you something before we continue. If a stranger offered you help when your family betrayed you, would you take it or would you refuse out of pride? Comment take it or refuse, because what I chose to do with Thomas's help, it changed everything. And it took 10 years. Now, for those still watching, let me tell you what happened next. I took the money. Found a studio apartment in Southeast Portland. $650 a month. Tiny. But it was mine. I finished my senior year at a new high school. Graduated in June. Started at Portland State that fall. Business major. Worked 3 jobs to survive. Coffee shop mornings, warehouse nights, weekends doing landscaping. Thomas worked the case for free, pro bono. Your father helped me once, he said. Loaned me money when my wife was sick. I never forgot that. This is me paying it back. We filed the lawsuit in May 2014. Fraud, forgery, theft. Requested full forensic analysis of Veronica's will. Her lawyers fought everything. Filed motions to dismiss, motions to delay, requested continuances. They were trying to run out the clock, hoping I'd give up. I didn't. The handwriting analysis came back in August 2014. My father's signature on Veronica's will? Forged. Not even close. The expert witness said it was an amateur attempt at best. The notary investigation confirmed what Thomas suspected. The notary listed on Veronica's will didn't exist. Fake name, fake seal, fake everything. We had proof, concrete, undeniable. But Veronica's lawyers argued that too much time had passed, that the property had been sold, that unwinding everything would be complicated. The judge set a trial date, March 2015, 1 year after my father's death. But then something happened that changed everything. Thomas got a phone call from someone we never expected, someone who had evidence we didn't even know existed. The phone call came on a Tuesday, November 2014. I was in my apartment studying for midterms when Thomas called. Cameron, you need to come to my office, now. Someone's here, someone you need to meet. Who? Just come, trust me. I drove to his office in downtown Portland. Small building on Morrison Street, 3rd floor. When I walked into the conference room, Thomas was sitting at the table with a woman I'd never seen before. She was mid-40s, professional clothes, tired eyes. She looked nervous. A laptop sat open in front of her. Cameron, this is Rebecca Walsh, Thomas said. She worked as Veronica's assistant at the law firm, before Veronica quit to marry your father. Rebecca stood, shook my hand. Her grip was firm, but her hand was shaking. I'm sorry about your father, she said. And I'm sorry about what Veronica did to you. I should have come forward sooner. I was scared. Scared of what? She sat back down, took a breath. Veronica is dangerous. I've seen what she does to people who cross her, but I can't stay silent anymore. What she did to you, what she did to your father, it's wrong. Thomas gestured to the laptop. Rebecca has evidence. Show him. Rebecca turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was a video file, security camera footage, timestamp, the 12th of September 2013, 11:47 p.m. This is from the law firm, Rebecca said. Security cameras run 24/7. This footage is from 3 days before the date on Veronica's fake will. She clicked play. The video showed an empty office, dark except for one desk lamp. Then Veronica walked into frame. She was alone, carrying a folder. She sat at a desk, pulled out papers, started writing. The camera angle was perfect. I could see exactly what she was doing. She was practicing my father's signature, over and over, page after page, trying to match his handwriting. She spent 2 hours that night, Rebecca said, practicing. I found the practice sheets in the trash the next morning. I kept them. I knew something was wrong. She pulled a manila envelope from her bag, opened it. Inside were crumpled papers, 20 sheets, all with my father's signature. Practiced, refined, getting better with each attempt. My hands clenched. She planned this, before he even died. She planned it from the beginning, Rebecca said. Your father came into the firm in March 2013 for permit paperwork. Veronica saw his intake form, saw that he was a widower, owned a business, had assets. She targeted him deliberately. Thomas was taking notes. How do you know this? Because she told me. We were friends back then. She said she'd found her retirement plan. A lonely widower with money, and a teenager who'd be easy to get rid of. Those were her exact words. I felt sick. My father loved her. Your father was a good man who got played by a professional con artist, Rebecca said quietly. This isn't the first time Veronica's done this. I did some digging. Before Portland, she was in Seattle. Married a man named George Patterson. He was 63. Widower. Owned a hardware store. He died 8 months after they married. Heart attack. She inherited everything. His daughter tried to contest the will. Veronica crushed her in court. The daughter ended up with nothing. Thomas leaned forward. Do you have proof of this? Public records. Death certificate. Probate filing. I've compiled everything. She pulled out a USB drive. It's all here. The Seattle case. The security footage. The practice signatures. Everything. She slid the USB drive across the table to Thomas. Why are you doing this? I asked. Why help me? Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. Because I have a daughter. She's 19. Same age as you. If someone did this to her, I'd hope someone would help. And because Veronica threatened me last week, she knows I know things. She told me if I ever talked, she'd destroy me. That's when I realized I had to talk. I can't let her win again. Thomas picked up the USB drive. This changes everything. With this evidence, we can prove premeditation, fraud, conspiracy. We can show a pattern. This isn't just about one forged will. This is about a serial con artist. What do we do now? I asked. Thomas smiled. It was the first time I'd seen him smile in months. Now, we go to war. Over the next 3 months, Thomas built a case that was bulletproof. He hired a forensic accountant to trace Veronica's finances, found the Seattle inheritance, found 2 more cases before that. Boise, Idaho, Spokane, Washington. Same pattern every time. Marry older widower, wait for death or help it along. Inherit everything, disappear. 4 men. 4 families destroyed. 4 fortunes stolen. And my father was number 5. The forensic accountant found something else too. Money missing from my father's business accounts. $180,000 withdrawn over the 8 months before he died. Small amounts. $180,000 withdrawn over the 8 months before he died. Small amounts. $5,000 here, $10,000 there. Veronica had been embezzling while my father was dying. She'd used that money to pay for the Mercedes, the boyfriend, the trips to Hawaii I'd seen on her Instagram. My father's money. Stolen while he was getting chemo. Thomas filed an amended lawsuit in February 2015. Added charges: racketeering, embezzlement, wire fraud. Sent copies to the district attorney. This wasn't just a civil case anymore. This was criminal. The trial was scheduled for March 23, 2015. 1 year and 1 month after my father died. But I couldn't just sit around waiting. I had to do something. So I worked. 3 jobs. 80-hour weeks. Saved every penny. Thomas had told me the trial could go either way. Juries are unpredictable, even with evidence, even with proof. Sometimes the bad guys win. I needed a backup plan. I researched business loans, talked to banks. None of them would touch me. I was 18. No credit, no collateral, no chance. Then I remembered Carlos, Dad's old foreman. I called him. Carlos, it's Cameron Reed. Cameron, how are you, kid? I heard about the lawsuit. The whole crew is rooting for you. Thanks. Listen, I have a weird question. Do you remember my dad's clients? The people we built houses for? Of course. Why? I'm thinking about starting a construction company. After this is all over, win or lose. I want to rebuild what my dad had. But I need clients. I need people who knew his work, trusted his work. Carlos was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Meet me tomorrow. Bring a notebook. I'll give you every name I can remember." The next day, Carlos gave me a list. 43 names. People my dad had built homes for. People who'd trusted him. I started calling them. One by one. "Hi, my name is Cameron Reed, Nathan Reed's son. You might remember my father built your home back in." Most didn't answer. Some hung up. But 7 people listened. 7 people remembered my dad, remembered his honesty, his quality work. 3 of them said they'd hire me if I ever started a company. "Your dad was the best," one woman said. If you're half the man he was, I'd trust you with my next project. I wrote down their names, their numbers, their promises. That list became my future. While Thomas was building the legal case, I was building something else. A plan, a vision, a business. If I won the lawsuit, I'd use the money to buy back Dad's company from the developer who'd purchased it. Restart it. Rebuild it. Make it what Dad had always wanted. If I lost, I'd start from scratch. Use those 7 clients as a foundation. Build slowly. Earn trust. Prove myself. Either way, I wasn't going to let Veronica's betrayal define my life. I was going to take everything she'd tried to destroy and make it stronger. Pause this video. Real talk. If you spent years building a case against someone who destroyed you, would you want them in prison, or would you want your money back? You can't have both. Comment prison or money, because the choice I had to make, it shocked everyone, including my lawyer. The trial started on March 23, 2015. Multnomah County Courthouse, Judge Barbara Chen presiding. No relation to Thomas, just a coincidence. I sat at the plaintiff's table, Thomas beside me, Rebecca in the gallery behind us for moral support. Veronica sat across the aisle, designer suit, hair perfect, confident smile. She had 3 lawyers, expensive ones. She looked at me once, smiled, like this was all a game she'd already won. The jury selection took 2 days, 12 people, 7 women, 5 men, ages ranging from 24 to 68. Opening statements began on day 3. Thomas stood up, walked to the jury. No notes, no theatrics, just truth. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about a con artist who targeted a dying man and his teenage son. Veronica Glass Reed didn't marry Nathan Reed for love. She married him for money. And when he got sick, she didn't care for him. She robbed him. Systematically, deliberately. And when he died, she forged documents to steal his entire estate from his only child. He pointed at me. Cameron Reed was 17 years old when his father died. He'd just lost his mother 5 years earlier. His father was all he had. And Veronica Glass took everything. The business Nathan built over 20 years. The home Cameron grew up in. The college fund Nathan saved for. Everything. Thomas walked to the evidence table, picked up the USB drive Rebecca had given us. We're going to show you security footage of Veronica practicing Nathan Reed's signature. We're going to show you financial records proving she embezzled $180,000 while he was dying. We're going to show you a pattern of behavior spanning 4 states and 5 victims. He turned to Veronica. And when you've seen all the evidence, you're going to know exactly what she is. A thief, a fraud, and a predator. Veronica's lead lawyer, a man named Douglas Stein, stood for his opening statement. My client is a widow, he began. A grieving woman who loved her husband and is now being attacked by a bitter stepson who can't accept his father's final wishes. It was going to be a fight. The trial lasted 8 days. 8 days that felt like 8 years. Thomas presented our case methodically, piece by piece, building a wall of evidence so high that Veronica's lawyers couldn't climb over it. Day 1, he called the handwriting expert. Dr. Patricia Yee, 25 years of experience, testified in over 200 cases. She displayed 2 signatures side by side on the courtroom screen. My father's real signature from his driver's license. The signature on Veronica's forged will. These signatures were not written by the same person, Dr. Yee said. Her voice was calm, clinical. The pressure points are different. The loop formations don't match. The slant is inconsistent. This is a forgery, and not a sophisticated one. Veronica's lawyer, Douglas Stein, tried to discredit her. Isn't it possible that Mr. Reed's handwriting changed due to his illness, tremors, weakness? I examined signatures he made during his illness. Doctor, Yee pulled up another image. From hospital admission forms, from prescription orders, the handwriting degrades slightly due to weakness, but the fundamental characteristics remain consistent. The signature on the contested will shows none of those characteristics. It was written by someone else entirely. Point to us. Day 2, Thomas played the security footage. The entire courtroom watched Veronica at that desk at 11:47 p.m., practicing my father's signature, over and over. The timestamp was clear. September 12, 2013. 3 days before the date on her forged will. Several jurors leaned forward. One woman in the back row shook her head. Veronica sat stone-faced. But I saw her hands. Under the table. Clenched tight. Knuckles white. Douglas Stein objected. This footage doesn't prove anything. Miss Glass could have been practicing signatures for legitimate reasons, perhaps helping her husband with paperwork. At midnight? Thomas asked. In secret? With no one else present? While practicing the same signature 40 times? The judge allowed the evidence. Point to us. Day 3. Rebecca testified. She sat in the witness box, hands folded, voice steady. Thomas walked her through it. Miss Walsh, please tell the jury what you heard Veronica Glass say about Nathan Reed in March 2013. Rebecca looked at the jury. She called him her retirement plan. She said he was a lonely widower with money and a teenage son who would be easy to get rid of. Those were her exact words. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge gavelled for silence. Douglas Stein cross-examined aggressively. Miss Walsh, isn't it true that you were fired from the law firm for stealing office supplies? I was let go, not fired. And it wasn't for stealing. It was a personality conflict with management. A personality conflict? Or were you angry that Veronica was more successful than you? I wasn't angry. I was concerned. There's a difference. Concerned enough to fabricate a story about a woman you were jealous of? Thomas stood. Objection. Argumentative. Sustained. But the damage was done. Douglas had planted doubt. Still, point to us. Day 4. The forensic accountant testified. Martin Delgado, CPA, specialized in fraud investigation. He walked the jury through the money trail. $180,000 withdrawn from my father's business accounts between June 2013 and January 2014. Small amounts, irregular intervals, all transferred to accounts controlled by Veronica. This is a classic embezzlement pattern, Martin said. Take amounts small enough that they won't trigger immediate alarms. Space them out. Make them look like legitimate business expenses. He showed the jury what that money had purchased. A Mercedes S-Class. $78,000. A trip to Maui. $78,000. A trip to Maui. $12,000. Designer clothes. Jewelry. Rent for an apartment in her name that she never disclosed to my father. Miss Glass was building an escape fund, Martin testified. While Nathan Reed was undergoing chemotherapy, she was systematically draining his company, preparing for his death. That hit hard. I saw it in the jurors' faces. Disgust, anger. Douglas Stein tried to explain it away. These were marital expenses, joint purchases. Mrs. Reed was entitled to spend marital funds. On a secret apartment? Martin countered. That Mr. Reed never knew about? That she rented under a different name? Point to us. Day 5. Thomas dropped the biggest bomb. The pattern evidence. He called an investigator named Karen Monroe. Private investigator. Former FBI. Karen had spent 6 months tracking Veronica's history. What she found was devastating. Veronica Glass has used 4 different names, Karen testified. Veronica Glass, Veronica Shaw, Veronica Brennan, Veronica Cole. In each identity, she married an older widower. In each case, the man died within 2 years. In each case, she inherited everything. She displayed a chart on the screen. 4 faces, 4 men. George Patterson, Seattle, 2010. Died of heart attack at 63. Veronica inherited $800,000. Richard Cole, Boise, 2008. Died of stroke at 58. Veronica inherited $600,000. James Brennan, Spokane, 2006. Died of pneumonia at 61. Veronica inherited $450,000. Michael Shaw, Portland, 2004. Died of fall downstairs at 59. Veronica inherited $300,000. And finally, Karen said, Nathan Reed, Portland, 2014. Died of pancreatic cancer at 52. She attempted to inherit $1.2 million plus property. The courtroom went silent. You could hear people breathing. Are you suggesting? Douglas Stein stood up, face red, that my client murdered 4 men? I'm suggesting, Karen said calmly, that your client has a very consistent and very profitable pattern. Whether those deaths were natural or not, I'll leave to others to investigate. But the pattern is undeniable. The judge called a sidebar. The lawyers argued for 10 minutes. When they returned, the judge made a ruling. The evidence of prior marriages is admissible as pattern evidence. The cause of death speculation is not. The jury will disregard any implication of murder. But it was too late. The seed was planted. The jury had seen the pattern. 4 dead husbands, 4 inheritances, and Nathan Reed was almost number 5. Major point to us. Day 6, Veronica's defense began. Douglas called character witnesses. Veronica's friends, her former co-workers, people who said she was kind, generous, loving. They described how devoted she'd been to my father, how she'd taken him to chemo appointments, how she'd cried at his bedside. One witness, a woman named Helen Park, testified that Veronica had shown her my father's will. She said Nathan wanted to take care of her, that Cameron was young and would be fine. She was just following his wishes. Thomas cross-examined. Miss Park, when did Veronica show you this will? I think it was February, right after Nathan died. So she showed you a will that was supposedly created in September, but she never mentioned it until after his death? I guess so. And did you actually see the will? Read it? No, she just told me about it. So you have no personal knowledge of what Nathan Reed actually wanted? No, I suppose not. Their witnesses were weak, second-hand information, emotional appeals, nothing concrete. Day 7. Veronica testified in her own defense. Douglas walked her through a carefully scripted story. She loved my father. She'd cared for him during his illness. The will was his idea. He wanted to protect her. The signature was real. I was lying because I was bitter. She cried on the stand. Real tears. She was good at that. Then Thomas stood up for cross-examination. Miss Glass, you testified that you loved Nathan Reed. Is that correct? Yes, very much. Then why did you tell Rebecca Walsh that he was your retirement plan? I never said that. Rebecca is lying. Thomas pulled out a recording device. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Exhibit 47, an audio recording from March 2013. Douglas jumped up. Objection! We were never provided with this recording during discovery. Because we just received it yesterday, Thomas said. From the law firm's IT department, they found it on a dictation system that auto-records all phone calls. The firm didn't realize it existed until we subpoenaed their entire digital archive. The judge allowed it. Thomas pressed play. Veronica's voice filled the courtroom, crystal clear. He's perfect, Rebecca. Widower, owns a business. 1 kid who's almost out of the house. This is my retirement plan. 3 years, maybe 4. Then I'm set for life. Rebecca's voice. What about the son? Veronica laughed. Teenagers are easy to get rid of. 1 bad story to the right people and he's done. Nobody will believe him over me. The recording ended. The courtroom exploded. Jurors' mouths dropped open. People in the gallery gasped. Veronica's face went white, then red. She looked at her lawyers, panicked. Douglas tried to recover. Your Honor, this recording could be doctored. We need time to verify. It's been verified, Thomas said. By the firm's IT department, by an independent audio forensics expert, timestamps match, voice analysis matches. This is Veronica Glass, in her own words, admitting she targeted Nathan Reed for his money. The judge called a recess. When we returned, Douglas Stein looked defeated. Day 8, closing arguments. Thomas kept it simple. You've seen the evidence, the forged signature, the security footage, the embezzlement, the pattern of prior marriages. And most damning of all, you've heard Veronica Glass in her own words admitting this was a plan. A con. A calculated theft from a dying man and his son. The law is clear. Fined for the plaintiff. Douglas did his best, argued reasonable doubt, attacked the credibility of witnesses, but you could see it in his face. He knew they'd lost. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the 4 women stood. In the matter of Reed versus Glass, we fined for the plaintiff on all counts: fraud, forgery, embezzlement, theft. We award the plaintiff $2.8 million in damages and order the return of all property. I couldn't breathe. Thomas grabbed my shoulder. Rebecca was crying in the gallery. We'd won. After a year of fighting, we'd won. But here's the part nobody expected. The courtroom erupted. People were clapping. The judge had to gavel for order. Thomas shook my hand, then pulled me into a hug. Rebecca was sobbing in the gallery, smiling through tears. Veronica sat frozen at the defense table. Her lawyers were already packing their briefcases, distancing themselves from the wreckage. Douglas Stein wouldn't even look at her. The judge addressed the jury. "Thank you for your service. You are dismissed." Then she turned to Veronica. "Miss Glass, you are ordered to return all assets obtained from Nathan Reed's estate within 30 days. The court will schedule a hearing to address potential criminal charges. Bailiff, please escort Miss Glass out." Veronica stood. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked small, defeated. As she walked past our table, she stopped, looked at me. "I hope you're happy," she said. Her voice was cold, bitter. "I'm not happy," I told her. "I'm just done." She walked away. I never saw her again. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. Local news, newspapers. They'd been covering the trial all week. The story had gotten bigger than any of us expected. "Widow exposed as serial con artist" was the headline in the Oregonian. A reporter shoved a microphone in my face. "Cameron, how does it feel to win?" I looked at the camera. "It feels like justice, but it doesn't bring my father back. That's what people need to understand. You can win in court, but you can't win back time. You can't win back the person you lost." Thomas pulled me away. "No more questions. My client needs time to process this." We went back to his office, sat in the conference room, the same room where Rebecca had first shown us the evidence 8 months earlier. "So what happens now?" I asked. Thomas pulled out a legal pad, started making notes. "Now we collect. Veronica has 30 days to liquidate assets and pay the judgment. The house she bought with your father's money? She has to sell it. The Mercedes? Gone. The bank accounts? Frozen and transferred to you. Everything. What about the construction company? She sold it to that developer in Seattle. That's more complicated. The sale was legal, even if the money she used to buy it wasn't. We can't unwind that transaction, but we can go after the proceeds from that sale. She got $1.2 million. That money is yours." I did the math in my head. The judgment was $2.8 million. The company sale was $2.8 million. The company sale was $1.2 million. The house Veronica bought was worth maybe $600,000. The Mercedes, jewelry, other assets, maybe another $600,000. The Mercedes, jewelry, other assets, maybe another $200,000. That's $2 million, I said. "Where's the other?" $2 million, I said. "Where?" "Est the other right 100,000? Damages, pain, and suffering, emotional distress." The jury added that, on top of the stolen assets, to punish her, to make an example. Will I actually get it? All of it? Thomas leaned back in his chair. Honestly, probably not. Veronica's already spent a lot of it. The trips, the boyfriend, the lifestyle. We'll get most of it. Maybe. 2 million. Maybe. 2 million. Maybe 2 million. But the full $2.8 million? Unlikely. Still, $2 million was more than enough. "There's something else," Thomas said. "The district attorney called me during deliberations. They're filing criminal charges. Wire fraud, forgery, embezzlement. Veronica's looking at 10 to 15 years in prison." I sat with that. Prison. For a decade or more. She'd be in her 50s when she got out. No money, no freedom, no future. Part of me felt satisfaction. She deserved it. She'd destroyed my father, destroyed me, destroyed 4 other families before us. But another part of me felt empty. Like winning didn't fill the hole she'd created. "Cameron?" Thomas was watching me. "You okay?" "I don't know. I thought winning would feel different. Better. But it just feels hollow." "That's normal. Closure isn't the same as healing. Winning the case closes this chapter. Healing takes longer." Over the next 30 days, Veronica's assets were liquidated. The house sold for 580,000. The Mercedes went to auction, 580,000. The Mercedes went to auction, 65,000. Her jewelry, furniture, everything. All of it got converted to cash and deposited into an escrow account. The final total, $2.8 $1 million. Thomas called me to his office when the last check cleared. "It's done," he said. "The money's in your account. After legal fees and expenses, you're walking away with $1.87 million." I stared at the bank statement he slid across the desk. $1,870,000. In my name, Cameron James Reed. More money than my father had ever had at once. More money than I'd ever imagined having. "What are you going to do with it?" Thomas asked. "I don't know yet." But that was a lie. I knew exactly what I was going to do. 2 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Portland area code. "Hello? Cameron Reed?" A man's voice. Older. Familiar somehow. "Yeah? This is Walter Price. I bought your father's construction company from Veronica Glass last year." I sat up straight. Walter Price, the developer from Seattle, the man who'd purchased Reed & Sons for $1.2 million. "What can I do for you, Mr. Price?" "I wanted to reach out personally. I followed your trial, read about what happened. I had no idea Veronica had stolen that company. If I'd known, I never would have bought it." "It's not your fault. The sale was legal." "Maybe. But it doesn't sit right with me. Your father built something good. I've been running it for a year now. The crew talks about him all the time. They respected him. Loved him. I can see why. That means a lot. Thank you. Here's the thing, Cameron. I'm 68 years old. I bought your father's company as an investment, a side project. But I've got my hands full with my main business in Seattle. I don't have time to run Reed & Sons properly. And honestly, it should be run by someone who cares about it, someone who understands what Nathan built." My heart started pounding. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'll sell it back to you. For what I paid. $1.2 million. I won't make a profit. I'll break even. And you can rebuild what your father started." I couldn't speak. Just sat there holding the phone. "Cameron, you still there? Why would you do this?" "Because it's the right thing to do. And because I met your father once, actually. 3 years ago at a construction expo. We talked for an hour about building codes and sustainable materials. He was passionate, knowledgeable, kind. The kind of man this industry needs more of. If I can help his son continue that legacy, that's worth more than profit." I met Walter 3 days later at a coffee shop in Northwest Portland. He had the paperwork ready, sale agreement, asset transfer, everything. "The company's in decent shape," Walter said. "I've kept the name, Reed & Sons. Brought back some of your father's old crew. Carlos is still there. 5 others. Revenue's steady. About $800,000 a year. Not huge, but solid." I signed the papers, transferred $1.2 million from my account to his. Just like that, my father's company was mine. Walter shook my hand. "Your father would be proud of you, son. What you did. How you fought. Don't waste this second chance." "I won't." I called Carlos that afternoon. "Carlos, it's Cameron Reed." "Cameron, I heard about the trial, man. Congratulations. You got her good." "Thanks. Listen, I need to tell you something. I bought the company back. Reed & Sons is mine now." Silence. Then. "You serious?" "Dead serious. And I want you as foreman. Same as you were for my dad. If you'll stay." "If I'll stay? Cameron, I never wanted to leave. Are you kidding? When do we start?" "Monday, 7 a.m. Let's rebuild this thing." That weekend, I went to my father's grave for the first time since the funeral. Forest Park Cemetery. Simple headstone. Nathan Michael Reed, 1962 to 2014. Beloved father. I sat on the grass next to the stone. "Hey, Dad, I know you can't hear me. Or maybe you can. I don't know how this works, but I wanted to tell you. I got the company back. Reed & Sons. It's mine now. Urs. I'm going to make it what you always dreamed it could be." The wind rustled through the trees. A bird sang somewhere nearby. "Veronica's going to prison. 12 years. They sentenced her last week. She tried to appeal, but it got denied. She's done. She can't hurt anyone else." I pulled some grass, let it fall through my fingers. "I'm not angry anymore. That's the weird part. I thought winning would make me feel triumphant, powerful. But it just made me tired. Tired of fighting, tired of hating. I just want to build now. Create something good. Something you'd be proud of." I stayed there for an hour. talking to a headstone like my father could hear me. Maybe he could, maybe he couldn't, but it felt right. Monday morning, 7 a.m., I walked into Reed and Sons for the first time as owner. The office was small. 3 desks, filing cabinets, blueprints on the walls, photos of completed projects. Carlos was already there, so were the other 5 crew members. They stood when I walked in. "Morning, boss," Carlos said. He was smiling, really smiling. "Don't call me boss, call me Cameron. We're a team." We spent that first day going through projects, current contracts, future bids. The company was stable but small. We had enough work for 6 months. After that, we'd need new clients. I remembered the list. The one I'd made a year ago. 7 people who'd said they'd hire me if I ever started a company. I pulled out my phone, started calling. 3 of them answered. 2 had already hired other contractors. But one, a woman named Helen Rodriguez, remembered me. "Cameron, I heard about what happened with your stepmother. I'm so sorry, but I'm glad you won." "Thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez. I'm calling because you said once that if I ever started a company, you'd consider hiring me. Well, I bought back my father's company, Reed and Sons, and we're taking new clients." "What kind of work do you do?" "Custom homes. Renovations. Same quality your father provided. Same integrity." She was quiet for a moment. "I'm actually planning an addition to my house. 2nd story. 2 bedrooms. Bathroom. I was going to start getting bids next month. I'd love to bid on it. Send me a proposal. If it's competitive, the job's yours. Your father built my first house. It's still solid 15 years later. If you're half the builder he was, I'll be happy." We got that job. $180,000 contract. It took 4 months to complete. Mrs. Rodriguez was so happy with the work that she referred us to 3 friends. Those 3 friends hired us for smaller projects. Those projects led to more referrals. Within a year, Reed and Sons had 12 employees. Revenue hit $1.4 million. We were growing. I used $500,000 of the remaining settlement money to buy equipment, new trucks, better tools, a larger office space. I put another $200,000 into a college fund, finished my degree at Portland State, business management, graduated in 2017. The remaining $170,000? I donated it, half to the American Cancer Society in my father's name, half to Oregon Legal Aid to help people who can't afford lawyers fight cases like mine.